Thank you, thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to be back in Wales. 2 years ago, Keir Starmer came right here to declare that Welsh Labour is his blueprint for Britain. Now, I can see why someone who likes making U-turns as much as he does, and has absolutely no plan for where he wants to take the UK, finds the idea of making everyone drive at 20 miles an hour and banning all new road building very appealing, but the rest of us say, dim diolch. Now, Labour are claiming a supposed massive victory over this 20 miles an hour speed limit, but all they've succeeded in doing is slowing Wales down by 4 miles an hour. And the cost of this to the Welsh economy? £4 billion. £1 billion per mile. Talk about slamming the brakes on Wales, friends. Now, it feels almost fitting that this conference is taking place during the Six Nations. Doing this job, I've got to be honest, it sometimes can feel like you're in the middle of a political scrum. Now, luckily at Westminster, I've got two very sturdy props holding me up in Craig Williams and David T.C. Davis. At fly half, we've got Simon Hart, tasked with keeping the back line in order and making sure no one strays offside. And, of course, we've got Robin Miller, James Davis and Faye Jones putting in tackle after tackle on the opposition. I've got absolutely no doubt that if we keep binding together and pushing as one, we will get the ball over the line. Now, I know Welsh Labour are a bit distracted by their own leadership election, but their own internal wranglings shouldn't stop us from holding them to account. And I know you'll want to join me in thanking Andrew Davies and the superb Senate team who are doing exactly that. Thank you all. And when you listen to those Labour candidates, it's painfully apparent that they don't offer anything new. It's just more of the same. They won't scrap the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit that is holding Wales back. They won't reverse the policies that are devastating rural communities. Labour hope that by changing First Minister, they can avoid all sorts of difficult questions about their record in Wales come the general election. But we will keep asking them. Why are Welsh children being let down and getting the worst results in the United Kingdom? Why are Welsh farmers being abandoned? And why do they want to spend £120 million more on 36 more politicians in Cardiff, but can't provide a penny of funding to support steel workers in Port Talbot? And I'll tell you something else. Anyone who thinks Labour is the party of the NHS should come here to Wales. They'll find a fifth of the Welsh population on an NHS waiting list, and 85 times more people waiting over 2 years for treatment than in England. Wales is proof that when Labour runs something, they run it badly. And I am sorry that you and the Welsh people are being treated as Labour's laboratory. Now, in contrast, we Conservatives are determined to deliver for Wales. That's why we're spending £1 billion on the electrification of the North Wales main line. Wales is receiving a record £18 billion in Barnet funding. We're backing 28 different levelling up projects in Wales, with almost £500 million of funding in local communities like Wrexham, Rhyl, Conwy. We're establishing new investment zones and free ports in Cardiff and Newport, Wrexham and Flintshire, bringing jobs and investment to places like Anglesey and across Wales. And we're helping to keep steel making going in Wales with a £500 million grant to Tata. And because we're committed to Port Talbot and its future, our dedicated Secretary of State, David T.C. Davis, is chairing a transition board backed by £100 million of government money together with Tata to support the town its workers and its future, because that is the right thing to do. Now, I know last year was hard. We were dealing with the legacy of COVID, the instability caused by wars in Europe and the Middle East, and what that did to energy prices. But at the start of this year, we are pointing in the right direction. Inflation is down from 11% to 4%. Energy prices, just announced today, coming down significantly. Wages have been rising faster than prices for 6 months. Mortgage rates are starting to come down. Our economy has performed better than people predicted. Our manufacturing sector is now larger than France's. We have more tech unicorns than Germany and France combined, and a total of £24 billion was invested in our auto sector just last year. Because of this progress, we have been able to afford tax cuts. We have cut national insurance, benefiting over 1 million workers right here in Wales, a tax cut worth on average £450 to everyone in work, because this Conservative government will always make sure that your hard work is rewarded. Now, we've also given businesses an £11 billion tax cut to encourage them to invest right here in the UK. A tax cut that was described by hundreds of business leaders as, in their words, the single most transformational thing we could do for investment and growth. And you can see how attractive we are making the UK for investors, with another £150 million investment from Airbus down the road in Broughton, and £75 million pumped into the local economy in Wrexham by Ipsen. Now, by contrast, Labour in Wales just want to put more burdens on businesses, especially small businesses, pubs and restaurants, faced with significantly higher business rates and a tourist tax that will devastate the great Welsh hospitality industry. And we're working to deliver energy security for Britain, which is why we're backing floating offshore wind in the Celtic Sea. And let me tell you this, there is no better advocate for new nuclear at Wilfer than the incredible Virginia Crosby. Labour, in contrast, just want to ban British oil and gas. And it really tells you something about Keir Starmer and Ed Miliband. They're not opposed to all oil and gas, just British oil and gas. It's completely nonsensical. And their values aren't those of the British people, which is why they also can't see how unfair it is that people can arrive in our country illegally and not be removed. Now, Labour will use every trick in the book to try and frustrate the Rwanda bill in the House of Lords. But I know, and you know, that if we are to stop the boats, we need a deterrent. People need to know that if they come here illegally, they won't get to stay. And that's why we must pass the Rwanda bill. Now, at the election this year, the choice we face as a country is whether we stick with the plan that is starting to deliver the change that the country wants and needs, or do we go back to square one? I want to give you and everyone else the reassurance from knowing that we are building a brighter future for our children. That's what I'm working on. The alternative is Sir Keir Starmer, who would just take us back to square one. He's been leader of the opposition for 4 years, and in that time, he hasn't said what he would do differently. He just snipes from the sidelines because he doesn't have a plan. Just look at the chaos and confusion over the £28 billion eco-promise. It just shows he can't say what he'd do because he doesn't have a plan to pay for it. But we all know what that means, don't we? It means higher taxes for working Britain, and that's what we will stop happening. And as for his claim that he's changed the Labour Party, just look at how he tried to stand by a candidate caught spreading vile anti-Semitic conspiracy theories Conference, it's not change, it's a con. So in conclusion, the election this year will provide a choice for the British people, a choice in values. And our Conservative vision is of a Britain where hard work is always rewarded, where ambition and aspiration are celebrated, where we have security at home and abroad, where young people get the skills and the opportunities they need to succeed in life, where families are supported, and where those who have worked hard all their lives have the dignity they deserve in retirement. A Britain where we can all look to the future with hope, optimism, and a renewed sense of pride in our United Kingdom. So, Conference, confident in our values and our purpose, let's go out there and spread the word. Vote Conservative for a brighter future for our country. We will fight and Britain will win. Conference, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, look, as I did last year, I'm very keen to take questions from all of you because I think that's an important part of today. Over the last 48 hours, you've all been sending in your questions, so for the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to try and rattle through as many of them as I can. And to help me do that, I've enlisted a special friend of ours here in Wales. She's the Group CEO of Moneypenny, which employs over 1,000 people here in the UK and the US. She was a very first salesperson for Moneypenny 19 years ago. She was part of my business council when I became Prime Minister and when I was Chancellor, and it was brilliant to see her awarded an OBE for services to the economy, alongside 4 others from Wrexham and Flintshire in the King's 2024 New Honours list. So, Conference, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Joanna Swash.
Good morning, Borodar. Prime Minister, thank you so much for coming and answering a few of the members' questions. We all got the email, I'm sure, this past couple of days. And, but one quick question from me first. Did it take you a little longer to get here this morning?
Yes. I mean, actually, funnily enough, over yesterday when I was out and about, I was really struck by just the enormous anger over this policy about 20 miles an hour, the day-to-day impact it's having on everyone's lives. And it just shows how out of touch Labour in Wales are with what the needs and concerns of people are. And the contrast is clear, because it's not only that they want to impose this thing, they also have this ban on new road building. It's got a war on motorists, which is not something we believe in, because we know how reliant people are on their cars. And the contrast, as I said, is clear. As your Transport Secretary is here today, meeting with stakeholders about the £1 billion that we've put aside to electrify the North Wales line. That's the contrast. We're investing in local transport here in Wales, and the Labour Party are doing everything to just make life more difficult for people.
Slow it down.
And that's what we've got to stop. Yes.
Exactly. Right, we're going to go into members' questions, if that's okay. So this first one is from Nick Connor in the Conway Valley. Croeso I Llandudno, Prime Minister. I live just down the road in the Conway Valley with my wife and young son. I'm alarmed by the state of our NHS here in Wales. Back in September, I spent 19 hours in A&E. It took me 12 hours to see a doctor and 6 further hours before I could see a surgeon. Prime Minister, can we trust Labour with our NHS?
Well, the quick answer is no. And Nick, I'm really sorry to have heard about your experience, and that's not good enough. I come from an NHS family. My dad was a GP, my mum was a pharmacist. I know how important it is, and that's why we've prioritised the NHS with record funding, more doctors and nurses, new innovations like community diagnostic centres, virtual wards, surgical hubs. All of that is making a difference as we recover from COVID. But again, the contrast is really clear. 1 in 5 people in Wales on a waiting list. The worst A&E emergency care performance in the United Kingdom, and as you heard me say, just way more people waiting very long time for treatment, and for longer in general than we're seeing in England. It just demonstrates that when Labour are in power, they don't run public services properly, and people here in Wales deserve better, and they particularly deserve better for their NHS.
Yeah. I agree. This is not the blueprint for the rest of the UK, is it?
No, certainly not.
Another question. This is from Beth Rees, so thank you, Beth. On Tuesday, the Prime Minister announced a package of support for farming. Here's a topic. All of which was very welcome, especially his mention of a safeguarding land for food production. In Wales, however, the Welsh Labour government wants to take land out of food production for the planting of trees, ponds and habitat area. They admit it will result in the loss of 5,500 jobs. Will the Prime Minister support the Welsh farmers in their objection to this Welsh scheme with its 17 unreasonable demands and increased red tape, whilst also ensuring that the agricultural budget, importantly, is only used for food production and not for anything else?
Yeah. I mean, again, you can really tell the visceral anger amongst the farming community here in Wales about what is being done to them. And, you know, over the past few months, I've actually met with lots of Welsh farmers, including representatives from both Welsh farming unions. Faye raised this just in Prime Minister's questions this week on Wednesday, and, you know, Andrew RT has been doing an excellent job on this with Sam, and James, wherever James is, Davis and I met with a large group of farmers yesterday, and I said their anger is palpable. And they have every right to be angry. I mean, by the Welsh Government's own assessments, you know, their ideas are going to lead to thousands of job losses, reduce our food production and food security, and destroy farm incomes, right? It just demonstrates, again, why their plans are the wrong ones, and the wrong ones particularly for rural Britain, for rural Wales. Look, there's farmers outside here today, and, you know, they are expressing that anger, and we will do everything we can, and you guys are doing a great job of highlighting that this is the reality of Labour in power. It moves people backwards. Their values are not the same as those in our country, and that's why the team here are doing an excellent job of shining a spotlight on Labour and why they are the wrong answer, not just for Wales, but for the whole country. I just add on that. So, you know, again, because we've got a very good story to tell on this, and I was at the NFU conference this week, which Keir Starmer couldn't quite find the way to leave North London to make it up there to talk to rural Britain. But what, you know, the important thing there is, what are we doing? We're backing farmers with more money to produce more British food. Right? We have to always remember the primary purpose of farming is food production. That's what farmers want to do, that's what the country wants them to do, and that's what this Conservative government is going to back them to do.
Absolutely. That's good news for all of us. Thank you. So this next question is actually one of mine, if that's okay. As you said in your kind introduction, I run a business in Wrexham with 900 employees. And because we are looking after calls and customer services for lots and lots of different businesses across the UK, lots of different sectors, I look at my data and I can see actually improvements in the economy. It's not as tough as it was. There's a lot of new business around there. There's a lot of good feeling. And I can see green shoots come through, no matter what some of the headlines say. I'd love to know your thoughts about that, really. But as a business leader, I want stability, I want calm, I want to be able to invest and grow and know exactly what the future holds for me. And I don't really want change. So what's your view about the green shoots? And also, what's your message to families and businesses who are actually thinking of voting Labour, and what does this mean?
So look, there's no getting away from the fact that the last couple of years has been tough. Of course it's been tough for all of you, for everybody, right? We're recovering from COVID, backlogs in public services, and just as we're starting to do that, we got hit by a war in Ukraine, then a war in the Middle East, all the impact that's had on inflation, people's energy bills. So obviously that's felt really difficult for everybody. But the good news is, you know, I think you're completely right. And you have a sense of it because you can see across your thousands and thousands of customers and interactions that you have with millions of people. I see it from going out and about across the country every week, talking to people. And there is a palpable sense out there, regardless of what Keir Starmer might want to say, because he's always keen to talk down Britain, right? I can tell, actually, on the ground, people are, in the beginning of this year, feeling that the economy has turned a corner. They do see those green shoots. They can see that things are getting better. Inflation has been more than halved. Mortgage rates starting to come down. Wages have been rising for 6-7 months in a row now. We just saw today, as I said, energy bills significantly down. Consumer confidence, business confidence, again, survey out yesterday, highest it's been in years. Businesses like yours feeling better about the future. And that is why it is so important that we stick to our plan. Our plan is now starting to deliver real benefits to people. The tax cut that we've announced, that the Chancellor announced last year, already started benefiting millions of people across the country in their pay packets in January. Someone on an average earning of 35k is going to get an extra £450 this year because of that tax cut. Businesses are getting a tax cut for investment, and in contrast, what is Labour doing? They would take us back to square one. I spoke to pubs and hoteliers yesterday. Their business rates bills are going up almost 3 times, right? It's an extra £6,000 for a small pub, right, compared to what is going on in England, right? That's not the right thing to do. And you can see with their £28 billion eco pledge, what they've done is they've kept all their promises about the policy and trying to do this ridiculous decarbonisation by 2030, and just now pretending that you can have it for free, right? That's clearly illiterate, and it just means that ordinary working people are going to be saddled with higher taxes. That's not the right course of action. So if we stick with our plan, we can deliver the change that we're already starting to see and a brighter future for our country. That is the message we should take out there, and it's one that the country, I believe, is going to respond really positively to.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you. I think we've got time for one more question, if that's
right.
okay. And this is from Jacob Riddle. And the question here, so it's all about the brain drain from Wales. I've just completed a large amount of research into Wales, the Wales brain drain, and how we need to level up and use ideas from other parts of the UK. Through my research, I've found several issues facing Wales: the so-called brain drain, with young people leaving in droves, a reluctance to level up and learn from other parts of the UK. Some would say a disastrous Senedd determined to take actions which cripple the economy, 20 miles an hour, case in point. Will the Minister meet with me, the Prime Minister, I'm sorry, meet with me to discuss the issues currently facing Wales and what actions the government are taking to stop the Senedd from short-sighted decisions which are destroying Wales? So thank you, Jacob.
Yeah, well done, Jacob. You know, I got into politics for a few different reasons, but one of them was because of education. Because I think, look, there's no silver bullet in government, in politics. There's no one thing that will solve all the problems. But I've always believed that the closest thing we have to a silver bullet is education. Now, if you can create a world-class education system, that is the best thing you can do to transform people's lives. And you talk about brain drain. You know, I want to make sure that everyone has the skills and the opportunities they need to succeed in life in the place that they call home, so they don't have to move anywhere. That's the kind of vision of a country we're trying to build. And again, you know, Welsh Labour are letting our young people down, and that starts with our schools. I mean, the performance of Welsh schools under the Welsh Labour government has just got worse and worse, right? And whereas in England, because of the reforms of the Conservative governments over the past several years, we have marched up all the international league tables. Our readers are now the best in the Western world, whereas over that same time period, because of Welsh Labour, school children here have just been let down successively, time after time. You can see it. And when it comes to apprenticeship funding, you know, we're a party that believes there are lots of different routes for people to succeed in life. It's not just about going to university. We've championed apprenticeships. We've created 5 million more of them. We're investing funding for them. What's going on over here? The Welsh Government have cut apprenticeship funding. Can you believe that? Cut apprenticeship funding, and the Labour Party, with their plans, would halve the number of apprentices we have if they were elected to run this country. That just demonstrates they're not the right people to provide skills and opportunity to our young people. We understand how important education is. We understand that's how you transform people's lives, and that's why our record is a proud one for us, and what they are doing would just take us back to square one.
Absolutely.
Right. Are we out of time?
We are. Prime Minister, thank you so much for coming to see us in Llandudno today, and from everybody here in Wales, thank you very much for all you do.